Hello, Internet. Welcome to another episode of the Get Geek podcast. What is going on, y'all, out there in Internet land? We have a couple of topics to talk about today. But first, it is myself and one other. We're a little light this week. Everybody's taking a little breather. I'm Jose.
This is Wolfie. This is the dynamic duo
The
this time
dynamic
around. I think this is
duo.
the first time that we do just two hosts, no?
I think so. I think this is the first time. I think we've had at least three every other time because it's been like myself and AJ and Eli, or myself and Walt and Eli, or like you and Walt. But this week they're taking a little time off for some personal reasons. Nothing bad, just to have a little fun and relax. And we're here to give you guys an awesome podcast regardless. But first, I just want to mention a couple of things. For all of you out there who are liking the podcast, please like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, rate, share, subscribe, do all of those things. Look us up on all of your favorite podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever all of your favorite podcasts are sold. Of course, as we have mentioned every week, we are recording remotely. So if there are any sound artifacts issues, there's way too loud background sounds or any other problems with the podcast, we do appreciate any feedback. So please give us feedback on any aspect of the podcast. Ask us questions, give us topics you want to hear, whatever it is that you want to do. Please let us know. Welcome to the podcast. What's going on, Wolfie?
Nothing much.
Not much.
It's been a couple episodes, I think, since I've been here, no?
I believe so. I was off last week as well. I was off traveling, so I had a good time. But I definitely had some news and some geeky stuff that I was doing while I was relaxing last week, and the boys were handling that. So there's some great stuff to talk about, I think.
Well, we're going to be getting into some news as well as some Geekouts today. So maybe we could talk a little bit about your experiences or Geekouts while you were traveling in that second section. But first, we're going to start off with some news. And some of the big news this week, the biggest news is, even though it's not confirmed, it's the idea that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield will be joining Tom Holland in the next Spider-Man, which is huge.
Massive.
If it were to get confirmed.
And I think we all really believe that it is going to happen, but there haven't been any official confirmations about anybody getting signed on to the Spider-Man 3 movie, which we do not have a title for yet either. Homeworld, come back home. I don't know how you could like kind of name that one, but we have no confirmation.
I mean, it's got to be called Spider-Verse,
right? That's it.
Well, see, here's the thing, right? Like that's almost as much as a confirmation as you need, because the fact that they're bringing Jamie Foxx back as Electro specifically tells me that he's going to reprise the role that he had with Andrew Garfield. So there's no reason why Jamie Foxx would come back. Andrew Garfield is rumored, and they wouldn't bring him back. Like, it's got to be obviously part of the storyline. So,
exactly. And since Spider-Verse was so popular, it makes way too much sense for them to actually end up doing this. And I would be really excited to see Tobey Maguire come back as Spider-Man as well, because Spider-Man 2 like gave me the feels when I was younger, and I actually went to see that in the theater. So I would love to see him return to the Spider-Man franchise in some way, shape, or form. And the Spider-Verse would be an awesome way for that to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be interested to see how they bring him back. Obviously, Tom Holland needs to take the center stage.
Yes.
And I mean, I guess Tobey Maguire would fulfill the elder statesman role of the Spider-Verse, right? So like, I guess he would play like a little bit of like, hey, this is how we did it back in my day kind of thing or whatever, I guess, back in my universe.
Dude, can you imagine if they made it a catalyst, kind of like the Spider-Verse movie, and the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man dies? Like, that would be insane. They would probably bring him back somehow.
That would be insane, but I hope they don't do that, because the thing is that like I would like to see kind of like the three of their, because one of the biggest issues, or not issues, I don't want to say issues, but one of the biggest things about like the three Spider-Mans is that they are very, very unique in their own, how they were portrayed on screen, how they fought and all that stuff. And it would be cool to kind of see like the three of them fighting together and how they would kind of combo off of each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that too. I wouldn't want to see him die, or if he did somehow like get removed from the timeline early on, he would have to come back. One of the more interesting, like, I guess, theories that I heard that would be kind of cool to see, although I would have to see him also as Spider-Man, is that they make Tobey Maguire like an Uncle Ben character. That would be kind of interesting, I think. I don't know, but I don't want to. I guess I don't want to go
again,
too
I don't
far
want to
into
see
all
that
these theories.
because one thing about the new Spider-Man, the current Spider-Man, is the the fact that we didn't get the Uncle Ben angle. So I really don't want to see the Uncle Ben angle again, as even if it is through Toby, especially because like we already kind of got it through Tony Stark. You know what I mean? So
and we're
I
going to get
really
it
don't
through
want to see
Doctor
that rehashed. I
Strange, it
really hope they
seems.
don't go for that.
Was it confirmed that Doctor Strange is going to be in the film? I think that is confirmed for Spider-Man 3.
I think that's confirmed also, yeah. I think that's definitely confirmed. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it just makes too much sense.
Yeah, it makes way too much sense, and I can't wait to see that. And I want to hear the thoughts from the rest of the crew on that as well. So I don't want to blow too much here.
Yeah, no. So I think that like we're gonna do a deep dive on the Spider-Verse, and I think we're gonna bring one of our like friends of the podcast that has been on the show before, Danny, Danny Fuego, who he is basically our resident Spider-Man expert, and he's going to be able to school us, as well as all of you guys out there that may be wondering what is the Spider-Verse, why are there 3 Spider-Mans possibly coming in the next film. So that's going to be a really fun episode to do a deep dive, especially with like all the kind of like movie theaters and everything coming back.
Oh yeah, man!
And with movie theaters coming back, films kind of getting put back on the slate and stuff like that.
I'm excited.
That's also another really big piece of big news right there. It's New York is kind of like, I think, the last place where movie theaters have still been shuttered.
Yep,
and in New York City, they're still closed.
Yes.
But in the greater New York area, starting this week, right, the 23rd.
The 23rd, exactly, is when movie theaters
so starting
in
this
New York
week on the 23rd,
state,
we're gonna have movie theaters in everywhere except New York City opening back up at 25% capacity, which is very, very low with guidelines, but still, it's we're bringing movie theaters back to New York, which is huge considering the population of New York and how important it is for the movie industry. So what do you think? Do you think specifically the biggest movie I think that's left on the docket is all the other movies have been pretty much pushed back until like fall next year, winter next year. Do you think Wonder Woman's going to get pushed again?
Well, Wonder Woman is currently, when is it set to be released? In December.
December. Yeah, December.
Right. So I don't think so, because there's movie theaters open now in all 50 states. Like you said, I believe New York is the last state. There were all 49 other states had movie theaters open just until now, because we were even considering one of the things that we were going to possibly do is in New Jersey and Connecticut, which were all in New York. So we were going to travel to one of the theaters there, and you can have private showings. So it's something that we were thinking of doing.
For a super cheap rate, right?
Yeah, it's $99.99 apparently in most older movies. The newer movies can range actually between $150 and $350. But we were thinking of getting a small crew together and going to see some movies in New Jersey. And now that's something we can do in the suburbs of New York or in upstate New York or something like that. And it's really exciting because there's some movies that we really, really want to see in theaters, including, like, I know you're really excited about seeing Tenet in theaters.
Yeah, I need to see Tenet just because, again, Christopher Nolan specifically said this movie was specifically made to be seen in theaters. So I don't want to miss the opportunity to see it in the theater for that reason.
You were holding off. Like you said, you weren't going to watch it until you could see it in the theater.
Yeah, I don't want to see it anywhere other than the theater.
So that's one of the movies we wanted to see, definitely. And coming up on the Friday, the 23rd, actually, when all of these things open up, I was going to go see a drive-through, or a drive-in, I should say, a drive-in movie. I'm going to go see Borat in the drive-in. And it's actually a free showing because it's coming out on Amazon Prime. But, I mean, I'm just really excited to see that movies are coming back again. And I don't think Wonder Woman's going to get pushed because...
Well, they really wanted to come out. You
Of
know, they really
course.
wanted to come out. Patty Jenkins has said that like she's really confident that they're not gonna push it again and stuff, and it'll be essentially this year's biggest movie if it actually does come out, because every single
Mhm.
film, every big film has been essentially pushed to next year. So
It'll be like a hope to punctuate the end of the year as well. Like big movies will be back, and like
yeah,
it'll make money. It'll probably have a very long run, and people will go to see it over weeks and weeks and weeks because of
yeah,
the
yeah,
social
for
distancing
sure,
and the
for sure.
capacity limits. Which I think also in New York it's 25% or like no more than 50 people.
Not, you know,
So yeah,
not to mention the empty screens, because there's a lack of films that are going to be in the theaters, so there's no
yeah,
reason to like push Wonder Woman like off to the side or whatever. Like after a month or 6 weeks, usually some films kind of get like shelved because there's new films coming out.
hmm
But with the winter being the usual dead season of films in the movie theater and stuff like that, as well as no real big movies, you know, on the slate or on the docket, I think Wonder Woman's gonna have like a decent, you know, decent run, especially in the winter, considering how many people are dying to get some sort of normalcy, and there's nothing more, I think, you know, representative of normal
hmm
than a weekend movie trip with the kids, with the wife, the girlfriend, you know, with your buddies and stuff like that. Like that's kind of like, you
especially
know,
for geeks, man. Yeah,
yeah, especially for geeks, it's kind of like our normal thing. It's like, hey, like, you know, movie theater like once or twice a month, you know, at least. So
exactly.
it'll kind of start bringing that stuff back. That being said, let's not forget that like this is the winter, and
hmm
there's already a COVID surge happening. So we do hope that anybody that does go out there to venture out into the movie theaters are staying as safe as possible still.
Yeah,
So
there's
really,
41
really important.
states with numbers
We
going up, so we have
yeah,
to be
we
careful about how we do this,
we do not want to prolong this. I want movies to come back.
Well,
I want it so bad.
so here's a very quick loaded question, I guess, and then we can move on to some other news. Do you think it could make somehow, maybe through a longer run, $1 billion? Do you think that Wonder Woman could
That's
still
tough,
crack
man.
that in
I
this
don't think that
environment
it's gonna crack a billion. I really don't.
worldwide? Because
I
remember,
mean,
it's not just the U.S. that has that. I mean, U.S. has
right,
some of the
but like
heaviest restrictions in most cases.
The US comparatively, the US amounts for about 60 to 70% of revenue
hmm
whenever it comes to like these worldwide
Okay,
releases, unless it's a Vin Diesel movie. That usually is like 70% the other way.
or The Rock,
But
I think,
something like
right?
Wonder Woman, it's going to be like usually 60 to 70% of the revenue comes from the US showings. And the US showings are going to be about 25 to 30% capacity.
The Rock makes a lot of money internationally as well, doesn't he
Yeah,
not?
he does, but he also does really well here in the US.
That's why they have that rivalry, him and Vin Diesel.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, with limited, even if you limit the capacity to
Uh-huh.
50%
Mhm.
in the US, um, and given the fact that it's coming out in the winter when a lot of people are spending money, you know, on trips, on gifts,
Yeah.
on, you know, family, and there's not that much money to go around because of the economic state of the US, I don't think it's going to crack a billion.
Do
I
we
think I think it'll hit 6 or 700.
6 or 700 million? That's still
Yeah.
pretty darn good, I guess, considering the
Yeah,
environment. So
absolutely.
that's pretty awesome. And I guess
But
when you
I'm
get it to Blu-ray and probably streaming
yeah,
services, it'll
yeah.
probably make a whole buttload of other cash and revenue, which is good
Yeah.
for the industry. And I'm excited about that. I hope that
Yeah,
it really makes money.
I'm just banking on the fact that there was already so much hype for Wonder Woman. I mean, I think that like Wonder Woman was going to be this year's one of maybe top 2, top 3 for sure.
Black Widow and
Biggest
Wonder
hits.
Woman, right?
Yeah. I think Wonder Woman was going to do much better than Black Widow as it is.
I think it was going to do better for sure, but
Yeah.
I think Black Widow was probably going to outperform expectations because the closer we got to it, I think also because maybe it's partially because we haven't been to movies, but still the closer we got to it and the closer we get to it, like the more excited I was getting about it. But the trailers look good and all of that look good, so like that was probably going to be one of the bigger
Yeah,
movies of
for
the year.
sure. For sure.
Tenet probably as well. There's some big tentpole movies that didn't get to make the amount of money that they should have, unfortunately. But that's the circumstance right now.
Yeah.
So
So
movie
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, what do you think you think it's going to be over 700 or under 700?
I think it will be. I think it'll end up being over 700.
I think it's going to be shy of 700.
I think it's going to be just over. So like,
Yeah.
I mean, I probably went over on the Price is Right on this one, but That's cool. Like I want to be optimistic, I should say, and I really want.
I'm gonna say 657 million.
I'll say maybe like 715, like 715. I'm not gonna go too high, much higher than 7, and I think we're basically in the same ballpark for the most part.
Loser buys the next movie ticket.
Okay, yeah, I'm down. I'm down for that.
If I hit it exactly, if it's like 657 million, then you got to buy me popcorn too.
Okay, popcorn, soda. I'll buy. Just don't like try to kill me, but I'll buy all your snacks for that day and all your drinks and the movie ticket.
You know, one other thing to note is that, remember, Wonder Woman was going to come out for like on demand over the summer.
Yeah.
And the entire movie industry was like, if Wonder Woman comes out on demand, we're never going to put like another Disney or Marvel film on our theaters. And they were like, yeah, we'll wait. So it's kind of, you know, I completely forgot about that whole like gamble, because with Mulan coming out on demand, and if Wonder Woman had come out on demand, I mean, like movie theaters, they had to like do something. So it's really interesting. I like the fact that like in some way movie theaters kind of won that little round.
Yeah, because we don't want to see the death of movie theaters, but I do like some of the great ideas that they're coming up with, and like the fact that they have these ways to go and see it, like with just you and your friends, which we are. Yeah. I think we're definitely going to do that, but we'll let you guys know what that experience is like when we return fully to the theater to see Tenet and to see Wonder Woman and to see New Mutants again. Like we have to.
Do you know what we're not going to see?
All these movies. What are we not going to see?
It doesn't seem like we're going to see She-Hulk as the She-Hulk.
Or are we? Or are we not?
I don't know. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this news? Apparently, the She-Hulk is not cast as the She-Hulk.
Right. Tatiana Maslany, correct, which from Orphan Black fame, was supposed to be confirmed as the She-Hulk as far as we knew. I mean, confirmed in air quotes, as long as most of these things are confirmed until we officially see
I thought it was confirmed. I mean, where did the original source come from? I don't remember exactly.
To be honest, I'm not entirely sure. I thought it was actually her. Walt would probably everybody know this since he follows Orphan Black and he's seen that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was we got this covered, like, because they're not a good source and we never use them. But like it, I don't know. Like,
but the thing is that like this was supposedly confirmed for much longer than just a couple days. It was confirmed like for more than a week, and there was like nobody to dispute it. Like if something came out like that day about an actress female actor, how do you not like just put it out there right away unless there were negotiations, there was a confirmation, and then she took a step back or something happened along the lines where it's like, hey, like, I need to kind of take a moment here first before we confirm anything, and then maybe it just fell apart. They don't want to say that talks fell apart.
Yeah, I hope this is not like bad news that maybe she doesn't want to work with someone, or maybe like the money is not enough, or like there's some disrespect towards her from somebody on the part of Marvel, or I just hope that it's not like some sort of negative situation that's gonna deny us this actress being She-Hulk.
Female actor,
this actor being She-Hulk. That's something that like I really wouldn't want to see that. And see there, it could be something as innocent as saying actress instead of female actor. I hope that it's not something like that, like, and that's something.
I mean, I don't think that it is. My assumption is probably that there's just maybe creative differences, or maybe there's just a different direction that she might want to go, or reneging on it and stuff like that. And as opposed to making, the thing is, it's so early on in the announcement and everything that it'd be much easier to say that, hey, this was never confirmed, or that there was a mistake in the confirmation, versus coming out with like some sort of truth, like, hey, like we had creative differences, or that's not the direction I want to go, or I don't want to work with this person. It would be better to like brush it on the rug. If there was something serious against her, I think that she would have came out and said it. The fact that nothing like that came out, I'm assuming that it's something more, I want to say something more amicable.
Yeah, I mean, it was Deadline that confirmed this, and Deadline is normally
is reputable, man.
A pretty reputable
Deadline
source.
Is legit.
Exactly, and they probably wouldn't post something like this unless it was.
And they haven't done a retraction, right?
No, I don't think so. I wonder if they updated the original article. I'm linking to that.
Yeah,
Let's
take a
see.
look at the article, because if they haven't, like, if it was their mistake, they would have made a retraction.
Of course, yeah, they definitely would have. I mean,
and it's already been a few days since this news broke, so it'd be surprising.
You know what it could.
That's really,
You know what I want it to be? You know what I want it to be? That would be the most
what?
fun. I want this to be trolling Mark Ruffalo, because of course he like confirmed it on his Twitter. And you know how Mark Ruffalo is like the loose lips sink ships guy for Marvel and the MCU besides Tom Holland. He's always like saying things that he shouldn't. Maybe she's trolling him and it's just a joke. Because after Deadline confirmed it, again in air quotes, Mark Ruffalo tweeted not too long after the story broke, "Welcome to the family, cuz," at Tatiana Maslany, #She-Hulk. So maybe it's just a fun troll, and then she'll come out and be like, haha, like, I got you, Mark Ruffalo, I rickrolled you or something.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I mean, I don't think that that's the case. I think that, like, it seems like Deadline have their sources within Marvel Studios that, told them that she's their choice. But again, this seems like something where, like, this is where they want her. This is who they want. And then maybe just things didn't pan out.
I'm looking for like a Deadline update, honestly, to see if they have anything on it, because I'm looking at the original article and I haven't found anything yet. But let me just do a quick Google search. But I mean,
I can't find anything.
I have
actually on the Deadline article over here, they do have an update shortly after Deadline story on Tatiana Maslany. She-Hulk casting was published. It was retweeted by Mike. Oh no, this is actually,
that's the Mark Ruffalo tweet.
Oh yeah, that's the warm welcome.
Let me see, because I actually have not seen this actor in anything yet, to be honest. But Walt is usually a good judge of, like, good shows and good actors and all of that, and he's absolutely floored by her performance in Orphan Black. So yeah, there's no, I can't see any news on Deadline about the update. So I guess we'll see what happens, and we hope that she ends up being She-Hulk, and we hope that it's not something that ends up delaying the show or being basically negative in any way for her or for Marvel Studios. Like, we just hope this ends up being an amicable, good situation for everybody, and that she plays the character. That's basically the way that I see it.
I mean, I hope that it's smoke and mirrors. I hope that this is something where they just want to kind of like simmer it down, not let a lot of news come out, because again, like the whole Spider-Man thing, it has been confirmed, and for me, the not having that confirmed is better than confirming it now before it even goes into production.
Or maybe it's the same nonsense that was happening with The Mandalorian season 2, where they said that Pedro Pascal was somehow not in the season or not happy or something like that, and we really have there's been no actual confirmations of that. That just seems like some other nonsense that basically
exactly
spread to make some negativity happen. That's how these things can be sometimes. But this is coming from the source also. But again, it's such a tricky situation. We have no idea yet. We have no idea yet. So I guess we'll see.
So that's been pretty much kind of like the big geek news this week. Before we go into our Geekouts, we want to take a moment to, once again, thank you guys for checking out the podcast, listening in and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you guys like what you're listening to, please share, like, rate, subscribe, tell all your friends, tag your friends, send the episode over right now to someone you think that would be into what we're talking about.
Yes. Please do.
Into our Geekouts.
Yes.
So dude, what are you geeking out of?
So this week we're gonna have a bigger conversation about this for sure, because this was Walt's big game of the year candidate even before it came out. But I've been geeking out on Ghost of Tsushima and my adventures trying to play it remotely, which didn't really pan out too well. But I beat the game. We've all beaten the game. Walt, yourself, you beat the game, and I beat the game recently as well. And we're gonna get into that, like, and Legends. A post-mortem. Yeah, we're gonna do the big one on a separate podcast, because that game was awesome, actually, and it's definitely a game of the year contender. It's something that I would rate
game of the year itself. Yeah.
What's that?
You won't say game of the year yet?
I won't say game of the year yet. Because you know what? I also want to save that because we probably should talk about that eventually at some
We'll talk
point, what we
about game
think
of
our
the
game
year
of the year is too.
contenders and,
So I want to hold on to
all
that.
that.
But
Yeah.
I will say maybe when we have that conversation, you guys might be surprised. But
So tell me, like, so real quick, guys, big time spoiler alert right now. We're gonna talk about a little bit of Ghost of Tsushima, its ending and other stuff. So if you don't want to hear that or spoil that for yourself, go ahead and skip over to the next part of our episode, which will be my geek out.
Okay. Yes.
But yeah,
100%. Which will have
anyway,
spoilers as well.
Huh?
That part of the episode will probably have spoilers as well, I would imagine. But
yeah, well, I mean, you know.
So Ghost of Tsushima, spoilers. I'll talk about the gameplay first, so that it's a little less spoilery, although it will still be spoilers for those who want to, like, you know, learn about certain mechanics and things like that in the game. So the gameplay for me, I mean, I love the sword play. I can't wait to get into Legends and play as either the samurai or the Ronin. I want to be the big sword play guy.
Oh, by the way, guys, Legends, if you guys don't know what Legends is this week's update, or this past week's update that just came out, and that gives us the multiplayer aspect of Ghost of Tsushima, which, again, it's insane that, like, a game that has such a strong single player campaign and depth has already such an amazing multiplayer experience. And, you know, it's only been on a couple days and stuff, so we're definitely going to get into that when we do our deep dive as well.
And we've tried it, but we haven't played it together yet, and we will, and we're going to super deep dive into that. But so the gameplay of Ghost of Tsushima, it's absolutely fantastic. I've never played a game, I don't think, where I've enjoyed the basic mechanics so much. Okay, I'm going to give Ghost of Tsushima that. It's incredible how they handle swordplay in this game. It's not perfect, because nothing is, but it's something that they can, you know, improve upon in the second game. But the way that everything balances in the game is better than, like, the Arkham games. It's better than the Assassin's Creed games. It takes this kind of these action adventure third person games.
That's a tall order. That's a huge comparison to make.
It's a huge comparison. I think it gets that basic mechanic of just slashing people to death better than pretty much any game that I've played. And Walt and I have certainly been pretty obsessed with samurai and swordplay games for a long time. You know, starting with games like even Bushido Blade from back in the day, where it's a really, really, really realistic swordplay experience, or at least, you know, as close to you can get with a video game, where just one slice of the blade can be the end of your opponent. And I was playing it on lethal because I'm a masochist, and I like to play it on very high difficulties and challenge myself. All these games that I play, so I got to see, like, the highest level of challenge for the sword play. I love the way that it balances your sword stances. I think that that's a big reason why the gameplay is so awesome, because you have a stance for every weapon, for every opponent, right? And that gives you a little bit of an advantage, but it's like rock, paper, scissors, because if you use the stance for, you know, sword enemies, then you might not get the awesome mechanic of being able to automatically block enemies who have spears by using the spear stance. Like, it's such a rock, paper, scissors balance to how you actually attack people with your sword. So that's fantastic about the game. Like I said, I'll leave more opinions for when we actually go.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that. I think that, like, that those mechanics it's what made the game different from, like, your other slasher games and stuff like that, like hack and slash. I mean, if you think about, like, this to me had, like, a Assassin's Creed, Dynasty Warriors, Ninja Gaiden feel to it.
Yep.
Or maybe not Ninja Gaiden, but maybe more Onimusha.
Ninja Gaiden maybe in more of the aspects of the game that I feel like you enjoyed more, like the ghost aspects.
Ninja Gaiden wasn't that, like, much of an actual ninja game. Like, you didn't really have a lot of, like, stealth in Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden was just a straight up, like, hack and slash by a ninja.
That's true. More the weapons, I would say,
so
though, like the distance weapons.
You know, maybe Tenchu.
Yeah,
or Tenchi.
That would be another good comparison too.
Yeah, is it Tenchi or Tenchu?
It was Tenchu. It was Tenchu.
Yeah, Tenchi. So I think it was a little bit more like that, you know, because you had the stealth, you had, like, the combat and all that stuff. But but yeah, it kind of lives on its own because of this whole stance stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. The format was perfected on things like Tenchu. Actually, I'm actually glad you mentioned that, because thinking of that, that's a very good comparison. It was very similar in the basic overall goals of the game and how
I
you had
wonder
to
if
handle things.
Tenchu's coming to the Xbox Game Pass.
That would be awesome. I would like to revisit that game, because
Yeah,
that game.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
see, I just want to say that. So here's I guess the gripe that I have with Ghost of Tsushima, and it's not it you know it's a small one, really, because I enjoy every other aspect of the game so much that I didn't find the stealth. It's not that I didn't find it fun, like playing as the ghost, which is of course when you use more stealth components and like more of your tools and weapons and things like that. It's really fun. It's really a lot of fun. But I think that the stealth elements just aren't complete, because when I play as the ghost in Ghost of Tsushima, uh, I can sprint up on a group of guys. As long as I turn a corner, I can sprint up on like three Mongols and press triangle, and I
Right.
can
You mentioned this.
assassinate all
Yeah.
three of them, in a quick succession. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to do stuff kind of like that, but I think that it would be more fun. And again, this is because I like a little more challenge. It would be more fun if, like, maybe, with how fast you move while you're crouching, like, it wouldn't be that much of a sacrifice to make their hearing better when you're sprinting or running, and they would be able to see you or
Yeah. No,
hear
I
you around a
totally
corner.
agree. I
Yeah.
totally agree. Now, but here's the thing. This is the crazy thing. Like, this game is such a good game, and it's the first iteration of it
Hmm.
from Sucker Punch. I don't believe that they haven't done anything near like this as far
No.
as some mechanics from other stuff that they've done or whatever it is.
Nope.
This is the first iteration of this entire experience. And I think that it was an amazing job for what it is. I mean, I definitely agree that like the enemy AI
Hmm.
could definitely be improved on. To me, it definitely reminded me of like Metal Gear Solid. Um, the AI, especially in that first game where like it's,
Hmm.
they have like their specific patterns
Yeah.
and they can be you can be in the hallway where they can, in real life they'd be able to see you,
Yeah.
but because you're not in the cone of like their visual space, they
Yeah.
don't actually see you. So it's kind of like the same scenario
I was
where like,
expecting the
yeah,
exclamation point to like pop up above their head
yeah,
a couple of
yeah.
times, and
So,
that sound effect. But
yeah,
it's still a great
so
game, and that's such a
yeah,
small gripe, because it's so cool to also sprint up on three dudes and assassinate all of them in the cool way that you can in this game. So it's still so much fun, and it just needs a little tweaking. The way you get around, the missions that you get to do, like, the missions are
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, for sure.
Probably some of the best side missions I've ever played in an open world game, I would
Oh
say.
man, I
Probably.
gotta talk about that real quick because
Yeah.
that's the thing. The side missions, and I'm sorry that I'm geeking out with you on this.
I
The side missions
It's so
for
good.
me,
Yeah.
what made the side missions so good is that they weren't just side missions, especially like the legends.
Yeah.
The fact that these things were actual legends that had a tale, that had ramifications as far as the
Yes.
character, going out there to do a side legend, you get like this mystical tale about like this samurai that lived long ago, and then all of a sudden by doing it you get like this cool armor or this cool
Yes.
weapon or this new ability, and it's like it's not just a side quest. It feels like it's you're learning more about this actual world, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
if
The
this world
lore.
was today, if you go to Japan and you're into like you
Mhm.
get into like martial arts and the whole lore, you may find about like the legend of this samurai of Miyamoto Musashi and stuff like that, and then like learn more about him and then like finally get something. It's like it creates the world as opposed to just like a fetch mission, because that's the thing, the
Yeah.
legends are essentially fetch missions,
Yes.
right? They're fetch quests,
But they're
you know
so
what I
much
mean?
bigger
And
than that for the
yeah,
reasons
so
that you
much
said.
bigger because if you hit all the legends,
Uh-huh.
all the legend side quests specifically, like it makes the experience of the immersion of the world of Tsushima that much more real.
Yes.
Aside from like the amazing the world building, the architecture, the
Mhm.
colors, the leaves, the grass, everything, like it just makes the
Yeah.
world feel like it's alive,
Yeah, it
you
really
know.
does. And one of the other things that's so great about some of the side quests that I can mention, and these are going to be a little bit more, I guess, story-based spoilers, but like, one of the things, first off, that I really love about the side quests also is that the voice acting in this game is so amazing. And I played it in Japanese the first time around. I'm going to play it in English, probably in a New Game Plus, which is one of the new features that was introduced in the Legends update that just came out. But the voice acting and like the one of my favorite characters is the storyteller that tells you the legends in the Japanese dub. His voice is just so amazing. Like the way that he delivers it, the voice acting is just so incredible in this game from top to bottom. With Jin Sakai and with Khotun Khan and Lord Shimura, all the voice actors, and Lady Misako, incredible voice actors. And that's just another element of the game that you see in these incredible side missions, that is just so incredible about the game. And the one other thing that I will say and mention about the side quests is one of my favorites besides the Legends was I believe the 6 Blades of Kojiro, the duels that you had to do.
Oh, that was so cool. That was cool. Man, I gotta say that. Awesome. And it wasn't that easy, actually.
It was really hard. I think Kojiro was actually, for me, the hardest fight I had in the game. Harder than spoilers.
Yeah, I died actually quite a few times against him.
Yeah, harder than the Khan and harder than... I actually won't spoil the final boss of the game. I'll save that for when we totally discuss it in the big post-mortem. But harder than that boss battle. And that's a spoiler too. Like I said, we're spoiling it, but Khotun Khan, not as hard as Kojiro.
I think that the reason for that is that the duels, which also, if you think about this, and I want to make sure that we leave enough, meat on the bone so that when we do our post-mortem and really do a deep dive, that we get a chance to really talk and nitpick about everything. But this is actually kind of interesting, and it just dawned on me right now that the duels were essentially like, there's samurai battles where they where you don't have the ability to you can't use any of your extra abilities, you can't switch stances, right? If I'm not mistaken,
with the duels, you can, but it's not effective. I have, because I've
right. Oh yeah, because it's a sword battle, so you kind of have to like stay in the stone stance.
Yeah,
because you're not fighting someone with a spear or a shield.
Is it
or whatever?
Is it moon stance that is for the brutes? Whatever the brute stance is, like
moon stance is for the brutes.
I have used, because that's effective against all stances. Yeah. It's kind of a
no, that's true. It is,
purpose,
but you
stance.
can't use like a bunch of like all your extra abilities. You know what I mean? You can't use the ghost stance either.
You can use the special moves, which I definitely do, like some
of the special
3
moves,
slashes and the slash that can cut off their arm and all of that. The quick charge slash. So I have used those effectively.
You can basically use all of like your samurai techniques, but you can't use like a bunch of the other tools and stuff. You know, because it's a straight up face off. And I think that like that lends to the idea of this being harder, Kojiro being harder than Khotun Khan. Because in this world, the samurais are the top of the food chain. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that I felt like that kind of helped also create the world of Tsushima, where like these samurais are real. They're not your the Mongol peons or Khotun Khan and stuff. These guys are like, when you're facing a samurai, it's an actual challenge. Mm-hmm. And I think that was pretty cool too.
One more thing, I want to thank you, because I was trying to 100% this game before I finished it, but for those of you out here that are still getting through this game, and I guess heard some spoilers, I would still say it's really a really good idea to finish the story first, because it makes the 100% quest so much cooler. And I want to thank you for telling me to do that, because I'm so happy that I did that. I'm really happy that I did.
Yeah, I think it's definitely better to just wait. Don't want to spoil anything more, but definitely don't worry about. I mean, aside from the fact that like there's a ton of quests to do.
Yeah.
Finish the campaign, do the legends, do some of the legends, maybe not all of them.
Because there's some stuff
I would save it, because when you finish the game, it's not just that you do the end credits. There's something there special for you guys that'll make the experience of going back into the game so cool. So highly recommend that you save the side quest. This is one of those games where like you get your appetizer, you get your meat and potatoes, but the vegetables are still super, super good.
Yeah.
And you just enjoy the entire experience. Don't just go straight for the meat,
because it's got some of the best side quests ever. And again, that context at the end,
absolutely
really incredible. I'm really enjoyed this game, and I'm gonna get into it more. We're gonna get into it more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's definitely a candidate for Game of the Year for me. And we'll see who wins.
All right. So is it my turn?
Yeah. What
Even
the
though
heck
I
have
was
you been
kind of
talking
already
about?
geeking out. I think I was already geeking out. So
I think, well, there's been a lot of good stuff to geek out about over the last couple of weeks.
Well, something that neither of us got to enjoy was the actual The Boys finale episode that we did. That the other boys ended up doing. You know, and I didn't jump on that episode because I didn't get a chance to see the finale when it came out. And I'm glad that I was able to see the finale before all the memes came out. You know, even though I wasn't able to see jump on the cast last week.
So good.
I got a chance to see the finale, and man, it blew my mind. And I'm geeking out over The Boys.
It blew a lot of people's minds. It was really
literally and figuratively. So again, this is your last spoiler warning. We're gonna talk about the finale of The Boys. If you saw the last episode, then this is just gonna be just our quick impressions on The Boys. And man, like that last episode was insane.
Tell us about what was the super biggest, most insane moment of the episode for you. And again, spoilers for those who are listening. This is big stuff.
So I mean, the thing is that the thing is that it wasn't an episode where like my jaw dropped many times. It's just the culmination, like all the things that happened were like very satisfactory.
Yes.
Okay. You know, there was a lot of satisfaction there, you know, like the satisfaction of Stormfront getting her butt kicked by all the girls. And it's so funny, the line that like they hit like right there is like, wow, girls really do get it done.
Yeah. And you know what? I had this conversation with someone else really quickly about that line. It's not to me as cringeworthy as the She's Got Help from Avengers Endgame for a couple of reasons, because it's just basically not as cringy, but it's also something I felt like Frenchie would say in that situation, because he's self-aware, but a kind of a weirdo at the same time.
The Avengers one wasn't actually that cringy. The one that was really cringy for me was the Dark Phoenix one. I forgot what it was that
it was between Mystique
and Professor X. I forgot like what she said that was like so cringe that everyone in the theater was just like, oh, what the heck,
about calling it X-Men. It was about how the women got all the work done in the X-Men,
something like that. I gotta look up that quote, but
I don't remember exactly
this was cool. But the thing that like was really cool about the beatdown is that it wasn't a superhero beatdown. It was kind of like a straight up Brooklyn jump beatdown. There was no finesse. There was no superpowers necessarily. They literally just started stomping the crap out of her and like kicking her and like just like literally beating the crap out of her. And it was like, oh, that was just so satisfying. So the satisfaction of seeing that happen was just like, I shouldn't be satisfied by seeing like just a straight up beat down as opposed to like a big superhero battle.
But it was so funny.
It was so funny.
It was hilarious because of the fact that it was just a beat. Like they didn't even care. They just hated her so much that they were just like, "We're gonna beat this bee to like practically to death." Like they really kicked her butt.
Yeah. The next big shock was, man, when the Homelander's kid essentially is trying to save his mom from Stormfront, right? From Stormfront trying to kill her, choke her out and stuff. Mom. And he goes into a rage. He blasts her with his beams from his eyes and stuff like that. But he ends up killing his own mom. Yeah, and that was like a jaw drop. Like, oh my god, so close! Like he's right there, and like Butcher's right there. He's gonna get his wife. Butcher's doing the right thing. He tried to save them, even though like he was about to, kind of like, stab her in the back and stuff. So that part was like my jaw dropped out of like sadness, when I saw that.
Even Homelander's reaction to what happened to Stormfront was kind of heartbreaking, and Homelander had some like relatable moments in this episode. To me,
the thing with this episode, with this season, is that Homelander, I think that he showed more humanity in this season than he did in the first one. In some ways, simply because it showed that he is human, right? Like he legitimately cares about having his son and trying to raise him, even though he's not doing it the right way or the moral way, but he actually cares about being a father. And he, at some points, like, cared about, like, his son wanting his mom and stuff like that. Just, he was manipulated by Stormfront. And then obviously the relationship between him and Stormfront, that was crazy too. Again, like, it showed a more human side to Homelander. But what ends up happening now that Stormfront is gone and his child is gone and all that stuff, is that, like, he's completely unhinged now.
Well, I want to actually say, we don't know that Stormfront is gone, because remember, she can heal. So we don't know that she's dead.
That's true. And they didn't say that she's dead. They said that, like, that she's locked up somewhere. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah, right.
But
but
essentially,
or something.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen with her essentially. But he's, like, pretty much kind of unhinged. Like, he's, in his mind, I feel like the end of the show or the end of the season showed him, like, kind of, like, out of control. Especially him coming out of the cabin completely bloodied up. Even though that's, like, par for the course for Homelander, it's just at, like, a little bit of a different level. It
was really creepy how he, like, licked his lips after he walked out of there and he had killed all of those guys in that cabin. That was a creepy moment, a very creepy moment.
Right. I mean,
the relatable moment for me, I believe, was the most relatable moment was definitely when he was trying to console Ryan about what it was like to grow up with powers and learn about it. And he really, like, he did want him to grow up with a family instead of the doctors that Homelander grew up with. He definitely gave him some relatable stories, and, like, he took it back, kind of the relatability of his moment when he admitted that he cried, and he was like, "Oh, but not in a long while because I'm a man." There's definitely still, like, he's still a broken person. And the last moment of the season, which I can't mention it on the air because it's a little too rated X.
Well, I was about to mention it. That's my, like, third jaw-dropping little thing.
Okay, how far can we go in describing this moment?
Well, I'm not going to necessarily describe it, but Homelander had a very this is where I was like, all right, well, he's definitely completely unhinged.
Yeah,
he had a moment where he's just, like, basically at this point he's just like, screw it, I'm gonna do what I want. And he proceeds to do what he wants on a moonlit night.
He definitely said screw it.
Of a building. Yeah,
definitely said screw it.
So yeah, I think that, like, this is just an example of, like, what's to come. Because the other thing too about this show, this episode, is that, like, this episode, whereas the first season ended on a cliffhanger,
there's a lot to come.
Cliffhanger, this one tied up a lot of knots. So it felt like the end of an actual movie.
Yeah.
That left a lot of, like, breadcrumbs for the next season, the next film, whatever it is. I
agree.
And I think the next season is just going to be, like, a whole new phase, right? Because Butcher's whole goal was to get revenge for his wife. Then he found out about his wife being alive, and then it's to get his wife back. All that's kind of, like, out of the window now, right? Because his wife is dead, and like, the kid is back with the CIA and stuff, and it seems like I don't necessarily know where Butcher's going, except for the fact that, like, he was offered a job to spy on the Supes. So
yeah, everybody kind of ends up in a new place at the end of the season, because you have Stormfront is kind of out of the 7 for now, because she was outed as, like, a Kraut and all of that. And
as like not just Nazi, a Kraut, but a Nazi.
Like,
right?
All these terrible things. Well, yeah, Kraut, I guess, wasn't the best word to use by Queen Maeve before she punched her in the face. But, like, she just said, "Hey, Nazi," because Nazis suck, not Krauts. But like, Stormfront is in a different place. Homelander is in a totally different place. He's unhinged, which apparently was a moment that scene was something that they filmed in season 1, and Amazon didn't want to air it. And now they do, and I guess it's more appropriate.
Wait, which scene? The
final moment. The moment,
really?
The moment with so many things to come. That moment right there was supposed to be in season 1.
Okay.
But they saved it in a way for this season. So he's in a different place, and Annie is in a different place. Starlight is in a different place. She was framed and all of this stuff, and now she's back in the 7, and she's wearing her original costume, which I thought was a nice touch. The less, like, risque costume. Queen Maeve is back in a new place, Black Noir, and Huey is in a new place as well with where he ends up, I think, at the end of the season. Because he ends up with, well, a surprise character, maybe not a surprise for some, but for a very, very big surprise as to who was blowing people's minds, I think.
Yeah, that was kind of huge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to spoil that part. Well, actually, we're in spoiler territory, right?
Yeah, they
So
already spoke about it last week, I would imagine.
Yeah, basically the show's AOC is actually a soup who's going around blowing up all her enemies and stuff. So it's kind of crazy that I mean, I didn't necessarily see it coming, to be honest with you.
No,
Did
I
you?
didn't, but I've definitely seen some videos by like New Rock Stars and all these other great YouTube channels that they also, most of them didn't really get it. A lot of people didn't see this moment coming, which is actually interesting because, well, in the comics, I mean, should I spoil the comic at all? Maybe I shouldn't spoil the comic, but
No, not the comic, not the comic. I think
so
that's something that I want to do is
I'll leave that alone because I know
like
you
the
want to read the
sidebar,
comic. I don't want to
but
spoil
I'd
that for
like
you.
to, yeah, I'd like to actually do a comic readout episode on the boys, you know, because now I'm, you know, I want more boys.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
want
going to
more of the
say that
boys. So,
this is anything specific to
yeah,
what happened in the comic, and I'll leave it at that, and I won't spoil it. But
yeah.
like, there were definitely some hints and some clues, and if you watch the earlier big moments in episode 7, where we have basically the boys' version of the Red Wedding, and she pops everybody's head in that courtroom, you see her looking at everyone. You like watch her eyes dart, and like they really focus on who she's looking at in that moment. So like there's all
I
these
gotta
little
go back.
hints, and there's a
Gotta go
hint
back.
also, like, yeah, definitely you got to go back and look at some of this stuff, because there's all these little hints, especially like she was having that conversation with, I believe, the other senator in their office, and he said something about like blowing minds or like something like
See,
that.
I
There's
gotta
lots
look
of
at the.
hints.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's the one thing that I do love about like 8 episode seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it may feel
Yeah.
short,
Mm-hmm.
it's easily digestible. Like I can see this once or a couple more times and stuff, and not feel like it's a big chore.
Yeah.
And
It's easier to
you know,
not to juggle a few things and do them well and not have too many
yeah,
plot
yeah.
holes. I actually really like this. 8 to 10 episodes is kind of the sweet spot, because even some of the great Marvel shows on Netflix that were like 13 episodes, you have a little bit too much filler in the middle. So I
I
definitely
mean,
agree.
here's like perfect example though with the whole AOC. I mean, I don't want to call her AOC. I forgot what her actual name is on the show, but she essentially takes over the role of AOC in the government. She is the far left champion of the middle class progressive, and in that Senate hearing, she like as far as her acting goes, when all the heads were blowing up,
Mm-hmm.
she was like legitimately scared and afraid, and she's like freaking out over all the blood and everything. So like, you know, seeing that, I would have never guessed that it was her. Seeing her reaction, the way that she acted and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's
You know,
really
so
hard to
kudos to her.
see, but like it's really hard to like see that, but it's just there because there were so many subtle things that they used to drop hints. There's nothing overt, which is why it's so
Yeah,
great,
exactly.
you know?
It's a little foreshadowing
Yeah, it's like
without like
her
being
name is
overt, which is great.
Victoria Newman's
Yeah,
character.
Victoria Newman. Yeah.
So like she like all of those moments, and you again, the way that they played her is like this really, really concerned progressive, somebody who generally wants to do the right thing by people, and she's so anti-Vought for the entire season, like that, you know, you figure that there's maybe a way that she's kind of involved in this, because I had little suspicions here and there,
You know,
not just because of the
my
comic,
thing.
but that wasn't something that I was going to say 100%. That's like my last bet, the last
Right.
horse that
My
I was
thing
going to
is that
say.
I think that her angle is that she's using Vought as the big bad guy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To get herself ahead. But if she exposes him right now and she like kills Vought right now, then she doesn't have another big bad to get to the presidency, for example. As long as they're like Vought is still a problem, she can keep championing and keep like progressing and playing the political game until she actually gets to the White House. I think that's that's her angle.
I think you know what, I have an alternate thought, and then I kind of want to, if I may, I want to mention one moment that I really enjoyed in the season, and one scene
Absolutely,
besides
dude.
all the awesome ones that you talked about. But I actually don't think that she is really in control in this situation, because here's another detail that is a small one, but she has a daughter where the heck has her daughter been? We've never seen her daughter once. She mentions that she has a daughter in her speech where, like, earlier in the season where Homelander arrives and we see that moment where we think he, like, kills everybody in the crowd and it just ends up him being unhinged and seeing that in his head. She says she has a daughter. You never see her ever throughout the entire season. Maybe Vought is actually holding on to her daughter and they're using her and in order to do all of these things and kind of create the enemy and control the narrative. And she's actually the person that's being manipulated in this situation.
Interesting.
It's possible. You know, that's just my theory. And you could be right for sure as well, because that's an awesome theory. But I just want to mention one of my favorite scenes, besides the beatdowns and besides all that other great stuff. And again, Homelander was fantastic this episode. I think Anthony Starr probably deserves an Emmy nomination at the very least. But one of my favorite actors definitely delivered in this episode, Giancarlo Esposito's scene with Billy Butcher.
Of course.
Stan Edgar.
Of course.
That was such a cool scene. I love that entire conversation. I love the way that he jabbed at Billy Butcher when he kind of turned around on him. Like he said, you said I'm a bastard, or like something like that. He said I'm an evil bastard or manipulative bastard, because Billy Butcher told him that he was, and then Butcher reveals his plot to separate Becca and Ryan, just take Becca back and like have Vought keep Ryan and like raise him kind of like Homelander was raised. That whole conversation was just really, really awesome. The back and forth, the moment earlier on where he asked Stan Edgar how many people he basically has guns trained on Billy Butcher, and he says that there's several guys ready to kill him if he does anything crazy. Like just the way that Giancarlo Esposito plays every role, and the way that whole scene went, and even that little kind of jab where he says that he can't like kind of lash out and be too crazy, and he has this like great line.
That's the white man's. That's the white man's power.
The white man's luxury, he calls it.
Luxury.
White man's luxury, to be able to lash out and be kind of a maniac. And even Butcher's look when he says that, kind of in acknowledgement of that, like, because Butcher's totally nuts and Homelander's totally nuts, and Stan Edgar is quiet nuts. So that was an awesome scene. And like, I mean, it was just a really, 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 like you said, pretty perfect finale. A wonderful way to tie up the first two seasons and to see our characters in a totally new place.
Yeah,
in season
absolutely.
3, with new characters introduced as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I can't wait for the next season. And yeah, that's what I've been geeking out. Ghost of Tsushima, apparently, and The Boys.
Yeah, we've both been geeking out about both of those things because they were both awesome, and we hope you guys enjoyed them as well. All of you out there in the geekdom. And I think that's all she wrote for this week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think we had a really, really awesome conversation about all things She-Hulk, about all things Spider-Verse.
Not all things.
Well, about possibly things.
But we will have a conversation
dives to
all
come.
Things Spider-Verse soon.
And we have some great episodes and some really exciting stuff and really exciting content coming up this week as well. So I can't wait for all of that. And we hope you guys enjoyed this episode with just the two of us.
Yeah, same. I mean, if you guys like our impressions of The Boys, but you didn't get a chance to check out our previous episode where the rest of the crew got a chance to talk about The Boys, please go ahead and listen in. It's an awesome episode. Mm-hmm. And yeah. And once again, if you guys like us, we hope you do, since you've gotten to the end of the episode.
Yes.
Please like, rate, share, and subscribe wherever you're currently listening to this.
Do it if you don't like us. Either way.
I hope you do. But yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you for listening into the podcast. As always, you know what I got to say to everybody out there. Please stay geeky, my friends.